We're working with all black today as we make this adorable black cat in the moonlight. So I'm just starting off by making my circle in the center using my handy dandy masking tape. I have done a couple of other compositions like this, so I did want to turn it into a series of some sort. The difference with this one being instead of a wreath, I wanted to do kind of a creepy little tree encasing the composition. So once I've got my circle, I'm going to start sketching my composition. I've got a little moon on the left-hand side, and I've got a little hill that my cat is sitting on, and then I'm going to start sketching my cat. So the cat just consists of 3 circles. A large circle for the bottom, a medium-sized circle for the middle, and then a small circle for the head. Once I've got those stacked, I'm just making a little outline around those shapes to make the cat's body. Once I've made the body shape, I can add other details like the tail and then the ears and kind of define the face. As I'm adding the ears, I'm realizing that it looks kind of like the cat is facing towards the right-hand side, so I am leaning into that when I finish drawing the profile of the face or the little profile that you can see. And then we'll accentuate that by casting the light and shadow, showing that the cat's right side is kind of facing away from the moon. So I started off here with my background, and there was an important learning lesson here. When you have a big space like this to fill, it's really important to fill your brush with enough water and enough pigment to completely fill that space. So you can see I'm moving around the water and pigment at the top of the composition, and I'm moving it downwards, but I'm slowly running out of water and pigment to move around. Once I reach that point and the paint starts to dry, adding additional paint and water could cause some patchy effects here. So when I try to correct this by adding more pigment and water, you can see when I add starting from the bottom, it's a lot darker. So I didn't add enough water to this to make it really a consistent value to what's already there. So that's the risk you run when you don't get it all done in one swoop there. So I won't make you sit through my various attempts to correct the background here, since it's many layers of adding black and water and trying to correct as much of that patchiness as I can. Eventually I do get to the point where I feel like I can accept that it can add a little bit to the spookiness, and I try to make it look as intentional as I can. So now that that background's dry, I'm going to start working on my cat, and I'm just going to add a little bit of black to a lot of water to create a very light gray. And this is going to be the first layer of the cat, and this will be where the highlight's going to be. So we'll continue to add more values to this later. So while having a big space to work with and not enough water and pigment can cause you problems, working in a small space like this cat with too much pigment and water can also cause you some problems. You can see I try to spread around the paint as much as I can. I'll also try dabbing off my brush a bit too. I'll use a little bit of that gray to add some texture to the moon up there as well. So now while I wait for the cat to dry, I'm going to start working on my outline for the composition, so this big spooky tree. So I start on the left-hand side and I take a lot of black, not a lot of water, and I start creating that long branch. And as I make my way around to the right-hand side, I'll start pressing down on my brush a bit just to make that line thicker at the bottom. And at the point where I want that trunk to start going and getting wider at the bottom, I'll go ahead and continue to use that dark black to make that nice little trunk there. And this is meant to be like a whimsical tree, so the trunk doesn't need to be that thick. The branches are going to be kind of long and spindly too, kind of like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. And you can get creative here and put branches where you like. So as I was thinking about these long spindly branches, I was thinking, where are the leaves? And just to prove that I actually will draw a leaf, I've got a nice little tiny pile of leaves here just to kind of show the remains of this poor sad little tree. Since I'm waiting for those leaves to dry, I can't work on the ground just yet, so I'm working on adding some thicker branches to the base of this tree. Now I'm going to work on some of the shadows for the cat. So I have a little bit darker pigment and water on my brush this time. And you notice that I do not fill in the cat completely here. I'm just going to leave that whole left side as a highlight for where the moonlight's going to hit the cat. And this is just the second of a couple of layers. I'll continue to add some shadow and dimension to the cat as these layers dry. So now I start working on that ground, and I'm just using a very, very light wash of the black with a lot of water and just spreading it around and trying to make sure that the ground looks a lot lighter than the sky. So those leaves did bleed a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to use that opportunity to create a little bit of shadow there. And speaking of shadow, I'm going to add a little shadow for the cat as well. Since the moon's on the left, I'm going to have that shadow heading towards the right, just to again accentuate where that light was coming from. The paper's nice and wet, so I can continue to blend and create varying levels of black and grayscale here. So I'm adding another layer to the cat, and I can't really help myself. I'm going to need to outline this. I just want to make sure that the cat's shape is very bold and prominent here. So I am going to do some outlining. I want to make sure that the tail can be seen and that that dark outline can accentuate those highlights even more. And then I'm going to use that opportunity to cast even more shadow on the right hand side of the cat. I'm going to use what's left of that black, that thick black on my brush to create some grass and some additional little details here. I think one last bit of shading for the cat before I'm fully satisfied that he really has the dimension that he deserves. So I hope you enjoyed this adorable little cat painting in the moonlight. This might be my favorite from the series that I made. Let me know in the comments which one you liked the most. And hopefully you've learned a tip or two along the way. With that, I'll go ahead and say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.